All right, let's dive right into this explainer because we're going to completely shift how you think about personal finance. We're moving away from the simple math and those boring spreadsheets, and instead, we're going to focus on the hidden, underlying emotional triggers that actually run the show.
$400 million. Let that sink in for a second. Think about boxing legend Mike Tyson. During his absolutely incredible career, he earned a staggering $400 million. Now, logically, someone with that much cash should be financially secure for, what, dozens of lifetimes? But he spent that massive fortune on some wild, almost unbelievable luxuries. I mean, we're talking about literal pet tigers here, and a $2 million bathtub. It sounds like something straight out of a movie, but this was his actual day-to-day reality. And yet, eventually, he ended up completely bankrupt and $23 million in debt. So how in the world does a $400 million fortune turn into a negative $23 million hole? You really have to ask yourself, was he just dumb? Or was he just completely unaware of the invisible mental game of money? It's a game that honestly drives all of us to make emotional decisions first and logical ones second. Which brings us to Section 1, the mental money game, and why no one is actually crazy. Picture two totally different people. One person is deeply traumatized by watching their parents lose absolutely everything in the 2008 crash, so to them, money equals fear. They're avoiding the stock market like the plague. Meanwhile, you've got another person who feels totally invincible after watching cryptos skyrocket. To them, money means pure optimism and taking massive, swinging risks. The thing is, neither of them is crazy. They are just acting on exactly what the world taught them. Think about it like this. Over the last century, the US stock market returned a very smooth average of 10% a year. But the reality on the ground, it was a chaotic roller coaster of historical crises. We're talking the Great Depression, 9/11, the 2008 financial crash, the COVID pandemic. On paper, it looks perfectly smooth, but in real life, it was terrifying. This means everyone's financial behavior makes perfect sense to them, simply based on the actual pain or joy they've personally lived through. All right, Section 2, playing your own game and the serious danger of copying the wrong player. Imagine you're sitting at a Vegas poker table. You've got the tourist who's just playing for fun with a couple $100 to lose. You've got the pro, highly strategic, thinking 10 moves ahead. And then there's the drunk guy who doesn't even know the rules and is going all in on literally every single hand. Now, if you try to copy the chaotic drunk guy just because you saw him get lucky and win one hand, you are going to lose everything. Why? Because you're imitating someone in a totally different league playing by different rules. And that is exactly what happens when we blindly copy viral finance trends on the internet. You have to get crystal clear on what game you are actually playing. Are you trying to build wealth safely and steadily over time, or are you trying to triple your money in 3 months? Because once you actually know your own goals, you can finally ignore all that viral noise and stop stressing over the wild volatility of other people's games. Moving right along to Section 3, the trap of more, featuring greed and the man in the car. The trap is this endless, exhausting pursuit of more, and it's driven entirely by ego rather than actual necessity. Take the billionaire greed trap, for instance. Roger Rotnam was a hedge fund billionaire. The guy already had private jets, he had the mega mansions, yet he still fell into this trap, literally risking his own freedom and hundreds of millions of dollars in an insider trading scandal just to get a little bit more status. It was purely about his scoreboard ego. There's this brilliant quote from the psychologist Daniel Kahneman that beautifully captures the exact antidote to the greed trap. He says, "Happiness doesn't come from getting everything. It comes from not needing everything." It perfectly shows that at a certain point, getting more money completely stops being about security and just becomes a highly dangerous game of status. So, to protect yourself from reckless decisions, like, chasing random Reddit stock tips just because someone else made 30%, you have to clearly define what your personal finish line looks like. What is your personal enough? Is it $50,000 in the bank? Is it working only 4 days a week? Maybe retiring comfortably at 45? Make it real. Because if you don't set a finish line for yourself, I promise you, someone else will set it for you. And this leads us perfectly into the man in the car paradox. We go out and buy these incredibly fancy things, like a roaring Ferrari, thinking, oh, this is going to earn me so much respect and admiration. But the reality? Observers just use our expensive stuff to benchmark their own fantasies. They admire the car, but they totally ignore our character. They don't actually want to be you, they just want your stuff. Let's jump to section 4, the magic of compounding, which is really about unlocking the invisible advantage.
Get this. Think about Warren Buffett's $100 billion net worth. Only a tiny 1% sliver of that is the wealth he accumulated before turning 50. The massive 99% chunk of his fortune, that came after his 50th birthday. It's absolutely staggering, and it proves that compounding is this invisible, exponential advantage of pure patience and consistency.
But here's the thing. To stay in the game long enough for compounding to actually work its magic, you have to realize that life never, ever goes according to a perfect spreadsheet plan. Look at how we usually plan. A smooth highway, a full tank of gas, perfect weather. But how does life actually work? A sudden blown tire out of absolutely nowhere. Surprises aren't the exception, right? They are the rule.
And that is exactly why you need room for error. It is your crucial financial airbag that literally saves you when brilliant math fails. Back in the 90s, the absolute smartest, Nobel Prize-winning math geniuses in the world collapsed their hedge fund, long-term capital management. Why? Simply because they didn't leave any margin for error in their beautiful models. It just proves that survival, not prediction, is the most underrated skill in finance.
Finally, section 5, knowledge into action and building your behavioral system.
These concepts we've talked about, they aren't just isolated tips. They form a system that acts like layers of financial armor. First, you've got patience, letting compounding do its heavy lifting over time. Second is room for error, ensuring you can actually survive the unexpected curveballs. And third is avoiding dumb risks, which means beating that greed trap we talked about earlier. They constantly back each other up to protect you from your own worst emotional instincts. Here's the catch, though. Knowing the rules, that's like sitting at the gym watching other people lift weights. Actually changing your behavior means stepping up to the rack and lifting the weights yourself. It is incredibly easy to feel totally inspired after watching an explainer like this and then go and do absolutely nothing differently. We forget that money is fundamentally an emotional and behavioral challenge. It's not just an intelligence test. So I'm going to leave you with one final critical question to ask yourself today. What is the one insight from this explainer that you are actually going to turn into action today? Stop looking for a magic shortcut. Pick just one single principle we've covered, apply it to your life right now, and take that step to build a financial system that supports your peace of mind rather than messing with your head.